after what amounts to, well, nearly a 2-week break, the Riverhawks will be back in action on Friday night at UMass Amherst. Saturday, back home at the Songus Center, another meeting with UMass Amherst. Joining us now, the head coach of the Riverhawks, Norm Bazin. And Norm, first, last week, Mother Nature intervened. Chalk up a win for Mother Nature. We didn't play last week. Good, bad, does it make any difference?
Well, in our case, I think it was good for us. I think it was a much-needed break for some of those younger bodies, and hopefully we'll be more energized and enthusiastic to play this weekend, which I know we will be.
I've got to ask this in part watching the Bruins last night, but remembering when we played Northeastern, scoring a goal with the extra attacker and the net empty. What's the approach when you've got the extra attacker?
Well, I think first and foremost, you want to get traffic. You do have an extra man, but it doesn't mean you have puck possession. So having 2 men on the puck at all times is very important. And when it comes to have the opportunity around net front, you have to have traffic and you have to have guys going to the net.
Is it something a team practices during the week, or you really don't get a chance very often during the year to practice it?
It's not practiced enough. It's much like a 5-on-3 power play. You always want to practice it every single week, but you don't quite get to it all every week. So you'd like to get to it more often, but you do practice it once in a while.
Over the year and a half, year and 3/4 that you've been here at UMass Lowell, at times you pulled the goaltender in the last minute of play. At times you pulled the goaltender a bit earlier than that. When you're in a position that, you know, that's an option, what are the factors you look at in making the decision?
Well, that's an excellent question. I think you look at how fresh your bodies are that are going to be out there at the last minute of the period, because whether you do it 4 minutes left or 1 minute left, it really doesn't matter. You want the fresh bodies out there that you're going to have out there in the end. And if your better players are fresh with 4 minutes left, I'd have no hesitation to do it 4 minutes left.
All right, now this weekend, points of emphasis as this team prepares during the week for 2 meetings with UMass Amherst.
Well, first and foremost, it's going to be a very quick game. I think they've gotten a little bit better as the years progressed. We're very respectful of their team. We think they've got excellent team speed. We know that we have to create opportunities for ourselves. It's a bigger sheet. So there's more room out there, and we want to get the pucks. In order to do that, we got to be at our best.
I'm going to assume, and we beat them the first time 8-2. I've got to assume that that's maybe indicative of the time, but certainly not indicative of the present. We, I suspect, are a different team than we were then. They, I suspect, are a different team as well. No
question. I think every team has improved in certain facets from that time. That game, I know for a fact, if you asked their coach, he'd tell you their goaltenders were quite on that day. And the shots were pretty even that game. We converted and we executed, and that was great. It was what we needed at that time. However, we know very well that they've beat BU 5-1. They've beat Boston College in the last 10 games. They're a very capable hockey team, and we're going to bring our best Friday night.
Do you tell your team, forget about that previous meeting, wipe it out of your mind, or are there certain things you want them to remember about that?
Well, I think you have to forget, because it bears no importance in Friday's game or Saturday's game for that matter. It's very important that you think about the upcoming game, and everybody's improved in different ways. Everybody's changed. You know, you'll probably see 2 different goalies than you saw that game, so it really doesn't matter what happened before. It's what happens this weekend.
We are, 9 games to go in the regular season. This is the stretch drive. Is this team where you want it to be entering the stretch drive? And I mean, by saying where you want it to be, I mean its approach on the ice, the way it's playing the game. I don't mean standings.
Well, as a coach, you're always greedy. You want everything just perfect, and it doesn't happen that way. It progresses as the year goes along. You know what? We're as healthy as we've been in a long time. We need to approach it with a lot of enthusiasm, and when we're playing with enthusiasm and effort, and more importantly, energy, we can be a very difficult team to play against.
Talking to the guys on this team during the last 2 weeks, one thing that strikes me is that they are a confident team. They are a very close-knit team. Is this the time of the year that being a close-knit team is most likely to pay dividends?
Yeah, I think so. I think any stretch drive or playoff drive, you have to have a team that supports each other, that communicates well. And I think when you're close, those things really come to the forefront, especially the communication. As much as people think it's an easy game, it's made a lot easier by communicating. And I think teams who are close do a much better job of talking to each other on the ice.
Talked with Riley Wetmore, and the captain talked about accountability. He wants to make sure his teammates hold him accountable, whether it's on the ice, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's at the pregame meal as far as nutrition. And he talks about he holds his teammates accountable. He wants them to hold him accountable. Hearing players talk about accountability has got to be a good thing.
No question. I think that when you have your captain saying those types of things, it's just the reason he is captain. You know, right to the last stretch drive, he's making sure that they hold him accountable as much as he is doing for them. So it's very important. I think that's what makes him a special player. Yeah, you know, his stats may be down a little bit from last year, but I think he's grown into an excellent captain. And more importantly, I think he's going to have his best hockey yet to come.
You know, looking at Riley Wetmore, one of the stats that jumps out at me is he's never missed a game. And to me, that tells you so much about him as a person, as a hockey player, as a leader.
Yeah, a couple of those games I shouldn't have played him, to be honest with you, but he's such a gritty kid and he's such a great guy on the bench that you hate to leave him out of the lineup. You know, whether he's at 100%, and many of those games earlier in the year when he was hurt, he probably played at 50%, but it tells you something about him, and more importantly, it tells you something about his tolerance for pain.
And we'll remind people, Riverhawks and UMass Amherst twice this weekend, Friday night at the Mullins Center, and then Saturday night, Songus Center, 7 o'clock, and hopefully we'll pack the house. Norm Bazin, always a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you.
Pleasure's all mine. Thanks, Bob.